Good morning. I'm coming to you live from Cleveland, Ohio. This is Coffee with BlackAnthropy, where we shine the black light on people, nonprofit organizations, for profit businesses, and entrepreneurs who are impacting the life of individuals, families, and communities by providing knowledge, resources, opportunities, and inspiration. And this morning we have someone again who is checking all of those boxes, providing knowledge, resources, opportunities, and inspiration. This morning, my guest is Derek Holyfield. He is the head of schools at Kenneth Clement Boys Leadership Academy. And I invited Derek on because of his leadership role. And I'd like for him to talk about how he has prepared himself to become a leader and what made him realize that within himself he was a leader. One thing I want to say about the school that Derek is head of school at is that it's an all boys school. And so I think that his role is so important, which is why I'm so glad that Derek agreed to come on and talk. The mission of Kenneth Clement Boys Leadership Academy is to develop leaders, promote brotherhood and academic excellence, while also advocating for and serving our community. The goal of Kenneth Clement Boys Leadership Academy is to create scholars like Derek who are prepared to take active leadership roles in their high schools, universities, families, and communities. This is the expectation at this school. And so, with that, I want to hand it off to Derek. And please start out telling us what is it like to have that kind of responsibility every day of being a leader.
Good morning. Thank you for having me. Uh, that question alone is a tough question, primarily because it's one of those positions where you know that any and everything you do is magnified, and it means that if you do it well, you could be saving lives.
Yeah.
But if you don't do it well, you could be ultimately ruining lives. And I use this. I always say that I either could be attending graduations or funerals,
Yeah.
and I've attended both.
Yeah.
And the work is really rooted into how do we prepare these young men to not only do what we ask them to do and what's great for them while we're around, but when we're not around,
Yeah.
when they leave us, how do we make sure that they are going to do and make the right decisions that will further help them in the future? And so it's a lot. It's a heavy load to carry, but um, I think about the alternative. If I didn't carry it, or if no one carried it, it would be a heavy load dealing with the consequences of not having someone like me who are leading young people to a better future. And I think it's one of those things where it's a collective impact. We all benefit from having smart, young, productive citizens leading in our community. And so, with that benefit, we have to understand there's some work to be done on the front end. And I feel like that's the work that we're doing on the front end for our scholars.
And I always tell nonprofit organizations, thank you very much for the work that you're doing, because exactly what you said, we all benefit. When there's organizations out there feeding hungry people, sheltering homeless people, providing medical assistance, care, treatment, attention to people, it benefits us all. And so, just like you said, providing this education, knowledge, a specific focus for these young men is helping all of society, whether or not people realize that or believe that. Um, let's talk about some of what you did, your education growing up, because you kind of had an epiphany or an awakening from where you started your education and to where you're at now, because you're just still continuing to learn and grow.
Definitely. Yeah, I started off attending the Joseph Landis Elementary School on East 105 in Hampton. And that place we had the best teachers. And I remember the teachers that I had lived in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
They knew my grandmother.
Yep.
They knew my great aunt. They participated in community events. I saw them on the weekend. I could rock past my fifth grade teacher's house.
Yep.
And it was their level of care extended beyond the school walls.
Yep.
And that influence extended beyond the school walls. I then went to, and one of my teachers actually recommended that I go to the School of the Arts, which was not a neighborhood school. Mm-hmm. So at that time, the Cleveland schools had specific middle schools. Now, though, there's no longer middle schools, they're K to 8s now, or pre-K to 8s.
Okay, yeah.
And so the neighborhood middle school was not a place that many of us wanted to go to, unfortunately. It was like, oh man, y'all leaving this heaven to go to, I won't call it hell, but that's the way that my classmates kind of described it. Like, man, they're fighting all the time. It's all this chaos. The teachers don't care. That was the perception. I don't know how true it was, but my teacher said, no, you're special. You need to go here.
Okay.
And I auditioned. My sister had actually went to the school already, so it felt right. I auditioned, and I went to the Cleveland School of the Arts from 6th grade to 12th grade. Mm-hmm. And from 6th grade to 12th grade, I truly...
I got a phone call?
Yeah, tell me, hold on a second while he finishes.
Okay, please hold on a second while we take this call. We got a caller coming in. Caller, please tell us your name. Tell us where you're calling from. And tell us what your question is.
Hello? Mm-hmm. Well, they're stuck.
Hello? Caller?
They're stuck. Just keep it going.
All right. Okay, Derek, please continue with the course.
Yeah, so going to middle school and high school at the Cleveland School of the Arts, I had this amazing theater teacher. His name is Dr. Scott Miller. And he was an amazing artist in the community who really, he pushed all of us. And he had so much passion for the work.
Young people can see that passion.
Yes.
Yeah, they stop looking at you like, oh, he tripping, he crazy, to like, wow, he's serious, he's good.
Yeah, they just did a story on him not too long ago, and what I wanted to say about him is that he saw me for who I was.
Yep.
And as imperfect as I was, he held me accountable for things that normally other teachers would let me slide because I was smart or I was, I got along with people. But Dr. Miller said no.
It's not enough.
It's not enough. I expect more from you. And I remember losing a role that I had. I was like one of the lead characters in this play, and we had been practicing for months, and it was tech rehearsal. Tech rehearsal is a big deal because that's when you got your lighting folks, your sound folks, everybody's here. And I decided that I was going to the Glenville football game.
Oh, wow.
Instead of going to tech rehearsal.
Shout out to Tay again. Shout out to Tay again. He got his group of young men.
Yes, my friends had played on the team, and I believe this was in 2010. So this was if they would have won, I believe we would have went to the state championship. So it was a big deal. And I went. I had a ball. So it was my birthday weekend. And I get to rehearsal the next day, and my teacher was Dr. Miller and another teacher I had, Nina Domain, who's doing some great work.
I just finished up last night at Caramel,
Yes.
oldest performing arts theater in the country. She just finished up Bubbly Black Girl Sheds Her Chameleon Skin. Yep.
So Miss Domain told me when I walked in, she said, "You cut." And in my mind, I'm like, "Hold on, I'm the lead. I'm the person who's supposed to be leading. Like, you can't cut me." In my mind, I'm thinking that, oh no, they have my stuff packed. It was time for me to go.
Deuces.
Yes, and so I always tell them when I see it. That was one of the most impactful decisions, and it was life changing because not only was I cut because I failed to think about my team and think about everybody else's time.
Yep.
But the guy who took my position, he did amazing. He killed the role. He did way better than I would have done. And so it was one of those things where it was a lesson like, oh, you can be replaced. A lot of
lessons in there.
Yeah, you can be replaced.
And will be.
And will be. And there's somebody who can possibly do it better than you.
Oh, yeah.
So when you got a good thing going, you put the work in and you work hard. And that was a lesson that I've got. And so from there, I went to Howard University. I did a semester there. It's a beautiful place with beautiful people, but I was broke and I couldn't go. I even had a counselor. I'm not going to throw the organization under the bus, but I remember her telling me, "You can't go to Howard. You need to go to Tri-C because you can't afford it." And this and that. I'm like, I'm not listening to her. I'm going. And I felt that she was not really in tune with what I could do. And had I had a little bit more support, maybe I could have.
That's true.
I could have.
Yep.
Stayed there. But I did a semester. My friend told me she went to Ohio University, and she said, "Hey, they gave me a full ride, and I get a refund."
Deuces again.
So I said, "I'm out."
Deuces.
They gave me a full ride. Went to Ohio University. It wasn't all black at all. Far from it. I think we were like 4% black. So I went from a nearly 100% black school to 4% black, and we found a community though, and the community was tight, and I loved my experience at Ohio University. Came home, taught, went to Cleveland State, earned a master's in public administration with a focus on economic development, and been leading my school since.
Now, one thing I'd like for you to talk about is I want you to merge Nina Domain. She just did Red Summer, and she did an excellent job of merging 1919 with 2019, 2009. She merging the past with the present. So talk about those lessons that you learned, how you use those in your position now, because those, you'll be telling that story about how you went to that game and you got cut for the longest. I mean, that has such an impact on you. So talk about how you want to use that and how you do use that to try to hopefully get that same spark and grab the attention of all these young men that you are leading.
I'm thinking about a conversation I had with a dad before I got here today.
Okay.
I had an amazing opportunity, and I hope we can talk more about this later, to take my students on a historically black college tour.
Yep, I got.
And so this student who the teachers told me he shouldn't go. I said, everybody go. Mm-hmm. Everybody go. I don't care what y'all
being
say.
A leader.
Yeah, everybody go.
Yeah, that's a leader.
So I took him, and he did. He needed to see it. But at the airport on the way back, we rushed into our plane, and we had layovers, but I had to feed these guys. So I said, okay, let's get to where we're going first, and then I'll see what's around there food-wise. I'll buy y'all some dinner. This kid had a whole meltdown in the airport because we passed McDonald's before we got to McDonald's. And he worked there. I was like, dude. So he wanted to go to McDonald's. So he literally, and he don't want to eat. He cool. He don't want to eat this and that. I ain't fair and all of this. I'm like, dude, we just... And so the thing that hit me is because I brought it up today with his dad. Because I never told his dad, but I told his dad today. And I said, and I asked the student, I said, do you remember what I told you? He said, "No, I don't remember." I said, "Yeah, because you had an attitude." I said, "I put my arm around your neck." He said, "Oh, I remember what you said."
Oh, wow.
I said, "What did I say?" He said, "You told me it's not always about me."
Good.
And I said, "Yeah, I told you to look around and look at the other 30 kids who here.
Yeah.
And everybody got to eat. I can't stop because of you. You got to realize we a team. We got to work together."
Yeah. Okay.
And so that's the lesson, like that. Those little things those jewels that we drop to kids, they don't hear them all.
Yeah.
But some of them stick to them, and it often is how you deliver it, when you deliver it.
Yeah.
Sometimes you got to put a hand on their shoulder.
Yeah.
That's when he remembered when I said I put my arm around his
That's
neck.
what I'm listening to when you say that.
Because I put my arm around his neck. I wanted to choke him, but I couldn't choke him. But so I just put my arm like, "Dude, you tripping." And he knew it. He knew I was upset.
Oh, yeah.
He knew, but it was one of those things of being grateful. And we talked a little bit later on about, you got to understand what you just experienced. You experienced what most kids your age never experienced, where your principal, me, this was life-changing for me. This trip was life-changing for me. So we just experienced this amazing thing, and you pouting because you can't go to McDonald's, and you work there.
And that's what you got to get kids to see, and it's interesting you say that because, again, the same way that Nina Domain cutting you, the same way you put your arm around him and gave him that life lesson, my mother did that to me. I had a full scholarship to Livingstone College to play basketball. I'm from Chicago. And we went on trips, but again, it was all your family and friends when I was growing up. I get here, I don't like it at all. And I couldn't go anywhere. I couldn't do, I didn't have the freedom, like I had in Chicago. And so um, it was after the first semester, and I was supposed to be going back, and I missed the bus or the plane. I don't know, whatever I missed. And my mother was like, "It's a damn shame that you have the opportunity to go to school for free and you won't even go. And you know how many people out here wish they could go to school?" And so that's why, again, that's why I had Derek on, because dealing directly with these young people and having that ability to influence these decisions. That's why I think that mission and the goal of what y'all do is so important. And as a leader, like I said, you're gonna be held accountable. The parents gonna be saying, "Well, I didn't do this. You said you was gonna do this, and my kids aren't doing this. Why isn't this happening?" And then, like you said, I think something that you said is very important about that young man. I forget, it was a comedian. He made the comment. He was saying he did something and his mother cried. Maybe it was a football player or someone. And he said he felt so bad. He was like, I couldn't believe I hurt my mama like that. And that's what it sounded like when you talk about that young man. Like, I hurt, Mr. Holyfield, who trying to help me. For him to have that realization, and I really would love to see us get back to that more when we have our leaders out here helping people, doing things, and getting these young people to understand that my life is going to go on, these other people's life is going to go on, but we're trying to do just what that mission say, so that you can lead high schools, universities, and communities, because you're not going to be 16, 14, 15, 16, 17 forever. And who's going to step up? Because Mr. Holyfield is going to keep stepping up. Now, you said you hope you get to talk about that. And I think that that's important because a lot of young people, a lot of stuff I read, sometimes these trips are the first time they get to go out the city, even out their neighborhood. So talk about how the decision was made to take these young men to a historically black university and how, what their experience was like.
Yeah, it's every year since I've been leading, we're going to a college. We're going to an HBCU.
Good, yeah.
We usually hit Howard because I can have them go visit Howard, but then also we can go to the African American Museum.
Okay, yeah.
We can go see the Dr. King Monument. I usually do DC. And so last year we did DC, and I'm like, okay, this was life changing. The boys loved the trip.
Oh, good.
But I'm like, we can do more. We can do more. And so this year, beginning of the year, I told my staff, I said, we're going out the country. They said, out of the country, that's a lot of work. You got to do this, you got to do that. I said, okay, I'm not, I don't,
Right.
when somebody
Leader.
bring up problems,
It's
that
called being a
means
leader.
nothing to me. I'm telling
What you a leader for if you're doing something that everybody else already
Right.
thinking about and doing?
And
That's the leader. Transformation.
And that's the thing, too. A lot of times, I think a lot of places, they just do the basic or the bare minimum
Yep.
just to say that they did something. And I'm not about that. Like, I'm like, if we going to do something, we going to have to do something that's going to change a life or two, or maybe 10 or 20. And so we started thinking, I wasn't scared of the out of the country. That still can happen. But I really was thinking, like, okay, what's our goal, right? Our goal is that these guys go to high school and perform well.
Yep.
And I'm like, okay, they need to see some colleges. They need to see more than just one college. They need to see, and then we used to always go toward the end of the school year. I used to use it as an incentive field trip. At the end of the year, by the end of the year, they took their finals. They home. They not on campus, so it's not as fun. So one of my teachers said, take them a little early this year. I said, okay, we could do that. And then we started thinking. I said, hold on. I remember wanting to go on a historically black college tour, and my mom could not afford it, and so I never even brought it up to her. I never brought it up to her because it was like, for what?
Right.
And so I'm like, they going now. We going to 8th grade. I took 8th grade. We took some 7th graders. We took some 6th graders, and I'm like, we gonna travel this country. A lot of them never left the neighborhood.
Yeah.
And a lot of them never left the city. A lot of them never been on the plane.
Yep.
And so I'm about to give you all that in one trip.
Yep.
About to go visit some colleges. You're gonna meet some students who look just like you, who act just like you, who are performing at a high level at a college.
Yep.
And so we started off. We planned the trip. We went, but before the trip, I made it an incentive. So I put them all in groups, so they each were a part of the colleges. So we had and then they in each grade. So it was like you had 6th and 7th graders who were on Morehouse as well as 8th graders. So now you're a team. You got a team of 6th, 7th, 8th graders, and they competed weekly. They had to complete all of their schoolwork.
Oh, good.
They got points for that daily. Daily they got points, and then at the end of the week I bought them lunch wherever they wanted. They always wanted Chipotle. So
good choice.
So they got to it was dress code because we wear shirt and tie to school every day.
I see. Go to the website.
Shoes. And so they had to do that. They had to. Nobody could get in trouble in class. You couldn't have nobody in your team could get in trouble in class.
Good.
It was so beautiful because I remember one morning one of the boys, he every day he would mess it up for his team because he didn't have dress shoes. And one of the dudes came in. The kid I was just talking about actually is so crazy. I want to say his name. I can say his name.
It's up to you.
I'm going to say his name, Jonathan. The kid Jonathan comes out.
Jonathan, you hear that you on blast, right? If you're checking us out on live on YouTube, you should be in class. But YouTube later, Jonathan, you on blast.
We work at McDonald's, so y'all know who he is.
We'll be up there to see you.
So Jonathan pulls out a pair of dress shoes out of his book bag and said, I can't fit these no more. I think these your size. Gave them to the boy. I almost had a tear in my eye. I'm like, that's why we do this. So you looking out for your brother. And now y'all got the point.
Fulfilling that mission.
Yep. And so whoever the teams that won.
Brotherhood.
Exactly. The teams that won, they got a chance to go on the trip. And so I ended up letting all the 8th graders go. But then the 7th grade team that won and the 6th grader team that won. And then I brought 2 of my 9th graders who go to John Hay, who are college bound. I brought them with us. But we started off at Kentucky State University. Then we drove down to Atlanta. We did Morehouse, Spelman, Clark, Atlanta. Then from there, we went to Alabama. We did Tuskegee and Alabama State. And Alabama State is live. I love Alabama State. That was like my favorite place. I'm like, this.
Oh, yeah.
If I had visited this before I got here, I loved it. From there, we went to...
and do you know how many young men, if you say that, how many of them going to go there just because it was your favorite place?
Man, it was...
You know how many of them going to go there just because Derek Holyfield said that was my favorite place?
I hope they really check Alabama State out because Alabama State was nice. A lot of the boys love Clark, Atlanta.
Oh,
too.
Yeah.
They like Morehouse. We had a few that liked Morehouse.
Yeah.
But then we went from there, we went to Louisiana. and we did Xavier University of Louisiana, and that was a beautiful campus and a very different experience. All these colleges were very different.
Oh yeah.
And then lastly, we ended at FAMU, which is now I'm not gonna lie, I loved Alabama State, but had I been to FAMU before I visited any college, I would have went to FAMU.
I'm gonna interrupt you real quickly because I went to Livingstone College in Salisbury, North Carolina. And the thing that changed my life the most was I played basketball and played in a CIAA, and that geography that I learned. Learning North Carolina, South Carolina, where Atlanta was, or Georgia, where Florida was, where DC, Virginia, Maryland, because we played Hampton Institute, Virginia State, Bowie, Norfolk. We would, and so I learned geography, and so those, and I don't talk about that. And those are all of the little bitty things that these young men are learning. Is if they wouldn't have had this opportunity to travel like this.
So I was telling them, we're going from the top of the United States to the bottom. Y'all, we going all the way through, and that was big for them. And then we flew back. So they got to see I mean, it was awesome. It was beautiful. Like I'll never forget that trip, and so I know they won't. It was beautiful.
What did the parents say?
Oh man, had parents. They were and that was the thing I was messing with. I said, hey, look, I had your son all week. Don't be late at the airport. You better be on time.
You better be on time. Be on time.
But they were so thankful.
If it's not the daycare, I want $50. I want $75. I want you here on time.
Pick up your son this Friday.
Pick his ass up, or he'll be at Homeland Security waiting on your ass.
That's how I feel. For real, and they was messing with me. I only had one parent who was late, and I was like, I was about to leave them. I was this close, but they were so grateful. A lot of them. They wanted to go. I would say a lot of them asked, could they go? And normally I would have let the parents go, but I had the staff was fighting on who can go. So I took one parent with me, but it was a big thing. Like none of us had experienced this as adults, as professionals, as educators. None of us have experienced this. So for these guys to get this in the 8th grade was a big deal. And I'm like, people kept asking me, why are you doing this in 8th grade? You could take them in Detroit. You could take them in DC. And I was telling them, I need them to go into high school with a mission, with a goal, with something to work towards. I need them to go into high school saying, you need a 3.0 GPA to get into Morehouse. And I know that I can get in there if I do this. And that's what it was all about. It's about making sure that they're not going in without expectations. And so a lot of them, they know, like they had to, so the other part is they had to take notes for each college, give me 10 facts. And then they had to write an essay every day on their experience. And so at the end, they put all their essays together for a long essay about their HBCU experience. And reading some of those, man, I know for a fact that many of them are going to an HBCU, and they're going to one of the ones we visited because they've already been there, they've seen it. They all got gear from these colleges too. That was part of the fundraising effort. Was like we wanted to make sure that the boys can pick something to wear. They got it on their school today. They know where they want to go to college. And they've been there. A lot of people say, I want to go to Ohio State because they see football play. They're successful in football and basketball. But no, these guys, they can tell you about the academics. They can tell you about the admission criteria. They can tell you what the campus looks like, what the people are like. They know about these colleges now.
And again, this is why I created BlackAnthropy. Because how many people are going to see Derek on TV talking about this? They'll tell you about politics over and over and over, the divisiveness, the race to the bottom. Look at how he's impacting people's life. Not making himself super rich, not trying to become a social media sensation by Friday. He, the kids can become one, but he is putting in this work that we do not hear about on a daily basis. And this is a model that other schools should use. This, in the short time that I've had the radio show, BlackAnthropy, this is the third leader that I've had create their own program to teach young Black people finance, Then helping parents tutor and advocate for their kids. Trina Jones was on, talking about advocating for students
So important.
is so important. And
It's
how
so
many people know that or don't know that? And so again, this is what being a leader is. This is what is required when you want to truly be a leader. It's coming up with these different ways. And that's the point of being in that position because you get to ultimately make that decision. When you have a group of people saying no, and you have something in your heart and in your mind that you know this is what I want to do for these young people, it gets done because you're the one that are able to make that decision. So all of the young men at Kenneth Clement Leadership Academy, please be paying attention. Put yourself in these leadership positions that your principal is preparing you for so that you can make these same decisions for young people as you continue to progress in your life. Now, one thing I'd like for you to talk about, which is very interesting, is the programs. Schooling is changing. The program is being geared more towards what a collaboration of the community, the parents, the students, a diversity of faculty and staff, rather than some uniform cookie cutter. This is what kids have to learn. You all have so many different programs that you have, and I'd like for you to talk about the different programs that you all have. Your Boy Scouts Club, NBA Math Hoops, graphic design, nutrition program, programs with chess, Young Bankers Club, African drumming, sports, and game room. And we didn't see that growing up in school. We just had recess,
right.
And you just had math, English, science, history, and you took tests.
Yeah. So, can I side note real quick?
Oh yeah.
I want to say this because I never said it publicly, but Cleveland needs a Black teachers union.
I'm glad you said that.
We need a Black teachers union.
Yep.
Secondly, we need Black parent organizations.
I was going to ask you about that because you did that when you taught 6th and 7th, 8th grade. That was one of the first things you did.
We need that. We rarely have a collective group of Black teachers or Black parent organizations advocate. When you brought up advocating, imagine the power when these organizations come together.
Yep.
And you go to some major cities, they have Black teachers union. We don't have one. I want to be careful because I'm still in the role, but I want to say that our Black teachers can advocate in a different way.
Oh yeah.
And we
like
need
you're doing, it's showing like what you're doing with the principal.
Yeah. Oh, it's so necessary.
Yeah.
It's so necessary.
Caller. All right, let's take a break in here real quick. Get our caller in. Caller, thank you so much for calling in. Please give us your name. Tell us where you're calling from, and tell us what your question is.
This is Todd. I'm calling from the Ward 1 section of Cleveland. When you were bringing in the call, I couldn't catch the last sentence of what you were saying. You may have already answered what I was going to ask. Can you repeat what you just said before you came to call?
I just said, please say your name, tell us where you're calling from, and then give us BlackAnthropy your question.
That's what I'm saying.
My name is Carolina Holyfield. I'm just here to listen to my call on the radio.
Can you repeat the last thing you said before you were talking about go to the
Oh,
caller?
yeah.
Well, I said we need a Black teachers union, and we need Black parent organizations to advocate for our kids. That's something that Cleveland is missing, and I'm hoping that in the near future we can organize that.
Yes.
Okay. Just before you were getting ready to come to me, it was a break, and then a break in the communication, and I turned off the app. So I do have a question about that. Okay.
Go ahead.
I want to give you the obvious to some people, probably you too. The vast majority of the school population is already Black, and there's a heavy percentage of teachers that are Black in the school system already. What benefit would a I don't know your name. What's your names again?
I'm Derek Holyfield.
And I'm the host of BlackAnthropy. My name is Coffee Easter.
Okay, I'm with you.
Okay, thanks for calling me.
So I'm gonna give you an example, and this is true. I went to a board meeting for CMSD, and there
What's
was
CMSD?
Cleveland Metropolitan School District, where I work. I went to a board meeting, and there was a large gathering of teachers from the teachers union, and they stood in solidarity with the then president, where the main issue was they wanted to um, make sure that the teachers union had a voice when the district picked the new CEO.
Yep.
That was the thing that they were standing in solidarity for. That same week, a student was killed outside of John Adams High School.
Yep.
Why wasn't that the first and only thing we're talking about? Black kids' safety. Why wasn't that a thing that we needed to stand in solidarity for? You know, what are we advocating for, and what's the priority? What's first? If we're here for kids, what should we be talking about first? When we get that microphone, are we talking about safety and what's best for black boys, black girls?
Mm-hmm.
Or are we talking about we want to make sure we got a voice at the next CEO to protect our interests?
Because even when you have that CEO, they're going to listen to the majority of that union. But they would also have to come and meet with the leaders of the Black Teachers Union.
Exactly.
And again, listening to Derek talk about he made the decision as the principal that these young men in 8th grade are going to HBCU traveling tour to see all of these colleges. If just think how he can coordinate that, because other schools may not want that. But if he had a Black Teachers Union, it would be easier on his schedule and time to coordinate that and say how many teachers. He's already explained how the parents wanted to go, and there was infighting amongst the teachers who wanted to go. And so I think that that's one way that's how important that is. Because, again, the curriculum, what we started to get into before you called in, Todd, was the programming. Again, will you see this kind of programs that Derek is going to talk about at the school if Derek wasn't there and saying, this is the program that we're going to have?
Well, he posed the question in his answer.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, you were talking about the McCory kid, the one that murdered waiting for the 15 bus over there on over on MLK and Corlett. You're talking about that kid. That was the one that was murdered. I just thought we should say his name, acknowledge him as something more than just a student.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, yeah. But make sure I got his name right. I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that was his name. But you posed the question in your answer. You said, well, what should be first? And then you said safety. Then you started referencing safety. Are you implying in your question that safety should be first?
I'm implying that black kids should be first. That should be the topic of discussion when we're talking about improving our schools. That should be first. That should be always. That should be what we are discussing. And we had multiple students, and I'm sorry I didn't have their names. We had multiple students killed outside of their schools, their high schools this year. We had multiple, and we had multiple shootings. We just had one last week outside of a school. And so the thing is, I understand that there's other things. It's a very complex district. Complex things are going on in our schools, in our neighborhoods, and but we need to make sure that we're advocating for our students, and they deserve it. That's the thing, and that's why I do the work that I do, because my students deserve it.
Yeah.
It's not that, and I say that word because I often have to tell people when they say, "Why are you doing this?" Because they deserve it. Why is it a question? While we're doing it.
Right.
And when you look at it right now, there are so many studies being done on the effect and impact that the infant mortality rate in Cleveland, Ohio. There are organizations that young women who have left organizations, institutions where they were at because their voices were not being heard and how to treat young black women that they were dealing with. Now that they have their own clinics, they have their own programming, they have doulas that meet with these young ladies, advocate for them, the experience is completely different.
Exactly.
And these young ladies feel better explaining to someone who looks like them. They don't feel like they're being challenged on the sincerity or the seriousness of any mental health or physical condition or challenge that they have. And so it allows them to get better treatment. And then they learn now, okay, that's how I advocate for myself. Okay, don't walk away without knowing and understanding what this doctor is saying. And if I don't feel comfortable with this doctor, I need to keep going until I find one who I am comfortable with. When we're talking about all of the shooting, all of the violence, all of this decision making that's around what should be done with gun violence in schools. If you have the schools with predominantly black students, you have a black teachers union. They're going to be in black neighborhoods, and the students are telling Derek Holyfield, we don't feel safe. He can do something immediately. But when you have everybody, like I cover like city council meetings, and some of the council people say, well, that issue doesn't affect my neighborhood, but I hear you, I understand, and I agree with it. But the person there almost well, they didn't tell me. Someone was, it was an issue being presented, and something wanted to be done. Again, could be sort of like what Mr. Holyfield is saying here with respect to gun violence at his school. And the person was just saying that that doesn't really affect my school, my ward, but I understand you and I agree with it. But what if that person wouldn't have brought that up? What if 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 other council members didn't feel that?
If you don't live in the city,
yeah.
If you don't live in that neighborhood, you don't live. If you teach in a school, you can drive home, and every problem that happens around that school don't affect you as much. No. But if you got to sit in it and you got to live in it, you got to walk that neighborhood, you got to walk past that bus stop, and you got to see it. Your family got to see it.
Yeah.
You are gonna care a little bit differently.
Oh yeah.
You think you something to consider.
Go ahead.
I want to give you something to consider. The Black Teachers Union. Okay, I'm not going to address that, but here's what I want you to consider. The larger problem here is that there's poor parent participation. And Cleveland is a taxpayer-funded neighborhood.
Not my school.
I wrote a song. Don't blame it on the book.
Not my school. My parents participate. My parents show up. My parents care about their kids. So not my school.
Right.
Wait. Hear me out.
Go ahead.
I say the larger problem is not good parenting. It's poor parent participation. I'm referencing on the whole.
Right. Generally speaking, and I get it. Yeah, what you're saying. Not every single one.
And where there is participation, the participation is minimal. And I'd be willing to bet your school too. To hear me all the way out. I'm willing to bet that the parent participation is minimal as it applies to the long-term best interest of that taxpayer-funded neighborhood public school, because they have to have parent participation for parents of the students and parents that are just in the neighborhood that may have had or may not have at all ever kids that are in that school system.
He just said
if you're most readily available nonprofit, that's not a play on words. Your school in your neighborhood, wherever you live, and it's a taxpayer-funded neighborhood public school, is your most readily available nonprofit. And it's often, and especially this applies in Cleveland, the least funded by the neighborhood, and parents included. And you said
He still didn't include your school though, and you said not your school.
Todd, let's do this. I mean, we're not going to resolve that issue right now. But again, the point of having Mr. Holyfield on, the point of having the BlackAnthropy platform is to come with ways for people to copy what Mr. Holyfield is doing. I want him to be, like I said, he checked all of my boxes. He's providing knowledge, resources, opportunities, and inspirations. we want this to be a model. So, we got to start somewhere and we got to keep going. We can't just give up, and he can't just say that these people aren't doing this. He got to do it and keep building what he can. But Ty, we thank you so much for calling in for BlackAnthropy. All of your comments and statements, we take very seriously.
Let me ask you a question before you cut me off.
We got another caller.
Yeah, go ahead.
We got another caller. Yeah. So but thank you very much, Ty. You can hit us up on social media, Coffee Documents on Instagram and Twitter. Coffee, COFFEE Documents, DOCUMETS. And so you can hit us up and we can talk further about it. Thank you so much again, Ty, for your question. Next caller, please. Thank you. Please tell us your name. Please tell us where you're calling from, caller, and then please give us your question.
Hi, Coffee. This is Denise Kennedy, part of No Static Radio, Drag Racing the Ultimate Sport. Mr. Holyfield, this is a fabulous talk. This is something that needs to be heard more because our politicians are not going to change the gun laws to protect our children. I just called to say that I am sharing this show. My church has adopted John F. Kennedy High School. Our kids are at risk. Our kids are not graduating because they're being buried. I would love to hear more about you. This is a fabulous, fabulous talk, and I'm going to share this. We need to have more Black voices. Coffee, you just said that, you've heard people say that, this doesn't happen in my school or my area, but I understand and I agree with you. I want to contradict it and say, you may agree, but you certainly don't understand if it's not affecting you. So that's what I had to say.
Yeah, thank you very much. And so again, hey, look, this is why we have a platform. Because one big thing is, when we talk about Black History Month, we're still talking about Martin Luther King Jr., Malcolm X, civil rights. And there are so many people, day after day, week after week, year after year, committing their life to this work that we do not hear about. And unless and until we come together collectively to understand these issues, what we care about, and making sure that is at the forefront of what we ingest every day as far as news and information, and then say, how can we get in collaboration, in partnership, and how can we come together to make change and get the results we want in whatever part of the country we are in. When Derek talks about taking these kids on an HBCU field trip, going to all these cities and states, that is so, there's a lot of stuff that I watch and listen to. But if you look at the leaders of our country in the 1800s and the night Du Bois and Ida B. Wells, and, they've traveled the world to connect. We've got to get back to that. Again, the civil rights movement, I think it's widely known that every single Black person wasn't involved with that. I mean, that didn't stop them from still doing what they were doing.
I just have to say this. It's so funny that your name is Derek. The director, the choir director at my church is also a Derek, and he's also a principal. And he just took his kids, his 8th graders, on a trip that he made the system pay for. He said, these kids deserve to see better, and you need to pay for them. Their parents can't do it. And he was very adamant about doing that. You guys are such on the same platform, it's almost scary that you have the same first name. So I definitely applaud you. I'm going to get off this phone now.
I got to meet that Derek.
Yeah, Leroy Baptist Church.
It's just so funny that, and he said, my kids are being paid for by the system because I put my foot down because they deserve it. He said, but my son is going to Washington, D.C., and I got to pay $500 for him.
Yep. And again, this is answering Tan's question, a prior caller. When you have more people in these positions that are saying, but just think they're principals. When you have, when it's easier, when you have a student, you have a black teachers union like Derek is recommending, it's so much easier to coordinate this. All of these students going, they learned each other. You're in a city with people who think like you, who want like you, who believe like you, who have the same goals and missions, and you have that commonality that you all go off. The schools that Derek Holyfield took his young man to, the school that your pastor or the Derek that you're referring to, that he take his kids to. Now just think, when they go to school, now they got that connection, somebody in Cleveland. They got somebody to look out for them. You know what I'm saying? They have those shared resources back here in Cleveland that they can take with them, and then they have each other. And that's what we've got to get ourselves focused on, and more people doing. And I think a lot of people are doing these things, but we just need to again be shining the black light on these things are going on, and we want this to be informative and instructional. Contact Derek, reach out to them. How can we do that? When you all are coming, come visit us. How did you put that program together? Because then what'll end up happening, the same way you do Kickstarters and you do all of these different things to raise money for students, for businesses. How much would people, and that's again, the big reason I created BlackAnthropy. Initially, it was going to be just for nonprofit organizations, because people generally, when they want to give contributions to nonprofit organizations, they give to the very big ones. And I'm like, no, they need to be given to the small ones who are actually doing the work. And so just think now how much, that we can get together for the parents to go, that we can get for the more teachers when they want to go. These kids are never going to forget these kind of experiences.
And you don't.
Yeah.
And we were talking about, back in the day, there was actually a program that taught you how to go for a job interview.
Yeah.
What happened to all of that? I mean, just all of that. You know what? I just said 5 minutes ago, I was hanging up on you. So I can listen to the rest of this show. But I mean, you guys just bring up such a good point. Derek, make sure that you leave as much information with decisive as possible. Your voice needs to be heard, and it's not stopping me. And Coffee, I love you anyway. So,
thank you.
Have a blessed day. I'm out here and I'm listening.
All right, deuces, Derek. So tell Denise about those programs, because again, those were programs that was in school that when we were in school.
Yeah. So my thing when I first came there, I thought about my mom a lot when I was planning this, and just my experience. I grew up in the Glenville neighborhood, still live in the Glenville neighborhood.
Yep.
My mom didn't get off of work till 6.
Yep.
So that in between time, I was lucky to have, I had a grandmother who could take care of me during that time, but a lot of kids don't have that.
Yep.
And so I'm thinking, okay, if your parents drop you off to me at 8 in the morning, and we get out of school at 3, what are you doing from 3 to 6?
Yep.
And so immediately, my first year in, I don't care where we get the money from, but we're going to do a program, after school program from 3 to 6.
Wow.
And to this day, we still got that same program from 3 to 6. And that is when I was able to add those additional programming. Because the day-to-day, you really don't have time between your core subjects to really fit in all those extra encore things. And so with that 3 hours after school, we were able to, we have over 30 community partners that actively work with us all year. So the Progress with Chess, that's a partnership. And they teach the boys how to play chess, and then they go to competitions. Then we had the nutrition program.
Keep them in there. Yep. Don't just teach it to them and move on, and then next group come in. Keep them in there. That's right.
Yep. And so then the nutrition program was a partnership with Central State. And they were coming in talking about agriculture and doing this program with hydroponics, where they're teaching the boys how to grow fruits and vegetables without soil. And so that was a program. Fifth Third Bank did the Young Bankers Club. So that they used to come in and do it. Now it's a virtual thing that they created where the boys can learn all financial literacy starting at 5th grade.
Wow.
And so The other program, graphic design, that's my art teacher. We have a full band that comes in and teach the boys how to play instruments.
Wow.
We have Boy Scouts that's led by one of the moms that's leading the Boy Scouts group, and she is amazing. Miss Malika, shout out to Miss Malika Nias for leading that work. And she's been leading it for years now at the school. So all these different programs most of them are partnerships with other organizations, and we just continue to, use the resources that are available to us in the community. A good school extends beyond school walls and beyond school hours. That's a good school.
And that's in your mission. Again, you all didn't just say, for them to just become leaders in your community.
Yes.
And that's something that was important that you started out talking about, is that you're a leader and these young men are looking up to you. Like you said, that road doesn't stop. That is something that, that is with you 24 hours a day, every day of the week. Sure. And these are the things that, we need our young be able to have this flexibility when teaching people, period. Is you need that flexibility to say, these young people here, what would be the best way for them to learn? Because then it would make them want to learn more. Well, we're only learning this. Having the partnerships, having the collaborations, doing the different visits and stuff like that. Just imagine, as you all continue to do that, you'll have the HBCUs, you'll have the fraternities and sororities reach out to you all so that they can get a full experience and be a part of that. And a big thing that you need is that networking.
I have to shout out two of our partners that I didn't shout out, but the one is the Foundry, where they're teaching our boys how to row and sail.
Yep.
And so that's a great partnership that they had. They pick our boys up twice a week to go down there, and a couple of them actually joined the team. And then I also have to shout out Sigma Pi Phi, the Boulay. The Sigma Pi Phi fraternity has supported us in so many ways, and they actually gave us a large sum of money to attend that HBCU trip. So it's different organizations that are really, lifting us up. So I wanted to make sure I shouted them two out.
Yeah, and again, this is what we have to have this information out there. People are trying to do things. Change doesn't happen overnight. Change is a constant. It's constantly evolving. It's constantly changing, and we constantly need. It keeps people motivated, though. And like you say, these young men, just think how many young people will stay in school because they want to go on those trips. Yeah. Just think how many young men may want to come to Kenneth Clement because they go on these trips. Even if they want to just come to say, wow, I want to go on one of those trips, I want to see that. I'm not going to that school because it doesn't show, they don't have that. Again, this is affecting that Cleveland Black Teachers Union. When you have students that are saying, I want to go to that school because they go to HBCUs and I want to do that, rather that school don't do that. So I think that that's important. One thing you did early in your career that I think is very impressive is when you first started teaching, you went back to Cleveland School of Art, right? Yeah. And you taught 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. Yes. One of the interesting things that I think you did is you started the parents program immediately. Talk about starting that and how you came to say, I need to start this to learn from the parents what I should be doing with their children.
I'll say this: it's the most successful students I've had, they've had parents who were engaged in the school. Not to say that you can't be successful if your parent is not engaged, because you definitely can, 100%. But I wanted to get more parents involved. I wanted to say, okay, half of your parents are actively involved. The other half want to be involved, but don't know how, or the hours that we do the involvement don't work for them because they're at work. And so I wanted to remove some barriers for the parents to be involved. And that idea actually came from the students.
Wow.
It truly came from the students because...
Listening to the students.
Yeah, oh man. I learned from them just as much as they learned from me. I'll say that. But they wanted to do a service trip, because I was always talking about service and leadership. To this day, like any of my students who ever had me, service and leadership, we're gonna talk about it. And service, I always make sure they know something about the community that's going on. Like, I'll tell you later about what we're learning about right now. But that year we were learning about Flint, and we were learning about the water crisis in Flint. And so I drilled it into them. We read articles. We talked so much about the different aspects of how this was a race issue.
And if people aren't catching on to what Derek is talking about, we're talking about that water crisis in Flint, Michigan, where people couldn't drink water. They had to get water shipped in, bottled water, and so forth.
There was lead in their water.
Yeah, so to teach young people this at such an early age, continue there.
It goes back to being grateful for the little things. We didn't have to worry about, taking showers with buckets of water because our water had lead in it and things like that. And so I told the students about that, and they automatically were like, what can we do to help? They wanted to do something.
Wow.
Is there anything we can do? And I said, we can do something. I said, but we're going to need some help. And my mama could do this, my daddy could do this. But they started saying that their parents could do it. I said, okay, look. You can't volunteer your mama until we talk to her. So they made the flyers for the parent meeting.
Wow.
They took them home to their parents. The parents showed up. They filled my classroom.
Wow.
They wanted to plan, but they had a thing though. They said, okay, we'll help you with this, but we want a junior prom too. We want to plan that, because they had their own thing that they wanted to plan. They wanted to get their kids dressed up before senior prom. They wanted to do a junior prom. I said, deal. You help me with this, I'm gonna help you with that. And we were able to do both. And the parents planned the majority of it. So we did a water drive for about 3 weeks, where we had cases of water brought to the school. I can't remember, it was hundreds of cases of water that we brought. Parents were donating money. I then went to the administration at the school at the time and said, hey, we want to go on this trip, this service trip. We need this bus. We need this. The administration said, done. He didn't ask too many more questions. I love what you're doing. Here's the money. Let's do it. And so we got the bus. We got a police escort to the freeway.
Wow.
We went down there. We delivered the water. We volunteered at the food bank at Flint for the day. And it was just a rewarding experience. And it was parent-led. They went on a trip with us too. And we felt like we had supported in some way. We don't know how long that water lasted.
Right.
But it was just our little way of helping out. And I think the kids will always remember that. When I see students today, they tell me about that trip.
And not just your students, the people that you all help, the students and the young people that you all help. And so again, getting outside of your community, helping other communities, it impacts other communities. And other people think like, wow, never forget they helped me. You may never know how many young people they end up, because you don't know how much of a need it was for that water at that time. Like you say, it may have just been one time, but you don't know how much of a need that was for that person, that family at that time. And those people will never forget that. Those people came all the way from Cleveland and did that for us, and so.
And didn't want nothing in return.
Yeah, didn't want anything in return. And so these are the things, again, volunteering at the food bank. Again, when we're talking about, making a change and making a difference and impacting the life of individuals, families, and communities. One thing that, Derek just said is very important, which is we put together all of these things and went to the administration. He only left them with the decision to say yes or no.
Right.
Yeah, when you go to someone who has a full schedule just like you and say, we need transportation, we need money, we need water, we need you all to help us do all of this, they're going to be looking like, what? And just imagine how much longer it's going to take to get all of that organized and structured and done. But when the easier you make it on other people to say yes, the more likely I think it is that what your plan is will be able to get executed. Because that was the only step that was missing was, yep, here's the last things that you all need, go do it. Now, one thing I do want to talk about and get back to is, again, as an inspiration for young Black men, talk about So you teach 6th and 7th grade. Now talk about the principal program that you got in, and what did you learn in that aspiring principal program to prepare you? Like, what did you know before you got in that program, and what did you learn to help you say, oh, okay, this is what being a principal is about?
I want to say before I even got into that role, I had to sacrifice. I was teaching and working, and I needed a master's degree. And so while I taught during the day and went to school during the night.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was the sacrifice to even apply for the program. I had to have a degree. And so the program, it was an amazing experience. It was tough. But I was the aspiring principal at a school, at two schools. I started off at Scranton, and I did that for a year. But then I also was here and there. I did like 3 days a week at Case Elementary on 40th.
Okay.
And that experience alone, I mean, I got a hands-on experience. I'm right. I was doing the work. And it was one of those things where if something didn't go wrong, something didn't go completely right, I was getting feedback on it, and I was told how I could improve on it. So that was very helpful. I didn't know, before I got into that program, I didn't know how much was expected of me.
Yep.
As a leader.
Yes.
I also didn't understand the importance of empowering and lifting up others.
Yes.
To do their part. So there was this thing that I learned. It was if you can't leave it, you can't lead it.
Yeah.
For example, I'm here right now. My school better be still running.
Right.
So, but what that meant for me was, how do I show this teacher that I respect them and honor them and trust them to do the right thing while giving them the resources and tools to do it? How do I empower my dean, my secretary, everyone to do their job to the highest level, whether I'm there or not? And so that was a big thing. I also learned this quote that I'm going to live by for the rest of them. It's two of them. I wrote them down. The first one was, if it's easy, you're not doing it right.
Yep.
That one, when I feel like this job has gotten easy, that means 100% of my students are high performers. That means 100% of my families
100%.
have everything that they need to make sure that their student is successful.
100%.
That means I'm doing it perfect.
Yep.
And that doesn't exist.
Doesn't happen.
So it should never be easy.
Yep.
It should always be hard work. And so that's one. The other one was, teach people how to treat you.
Yeah.
This
again,
beautiful
teachers
black
union,
woman
black teachers union, black teachers union. This is what we want. This is what we expect.
When this lady told me that, I didn't understand what she was saying, but she told me that after I told her about my experience. My first day at work, I had a veteran teacher who I later found out applied for the position, didn't get it, tell me, you don't know everything. I've been teaching longer than you've been alive.
Uh-huh.
Like, he basically wasn't going to listen to me.
Mm-hmm.
And she empowered me to say, first of all, you the leader. You're in charge.
Yep.
And you don't always have to say I'm in charge.
Yep.
But you teach them how to treat you.
Yep.
And I'll never forget that, because I think that's a life lesson for anybody. When you let somebody treat you bad one time, they're going to do it again.
Oh, yeah.
They're going to do it twice. And when you let somebody say something that's harmful to you, to your group, for example, why are you doing this? I'm going to make sure you never ask me that again, because I'm going to tell you they deserve it. And if you got a question further than that, then I don't know what to tell you.
Right.
It's clear.
Right.
And so I think that's like those are the two things that I really learned in this program. And I learned how to deal with different people. You got multiple stakeholders. I got parents who want something. I got teachers who want something, students, community members. You got all these stakeholders, and you have to navigate through all of them and help all of them. They all want something.
Yep.
And you got to realize, well, okay, where do our values align? Because that's where that's where me and you can work together.
Right.
If we're talking about academic outcomes, that's my job. My job is to make sure that my students are learning and are moving forward. If we're talking about that, okay, then we can work.
Right.
Anything outside of that, I probably can't work with you because I'm focused on this mission. Anything that can go with my mission, we can work.
Right. Right.
And so I'm focused on the main thing, and I'm not making they call it in our world, they call it low inference. Low inference. I'm not inferring anything. I'm not making assumptions about anything. I'm telling you the facts. This what we working on. This what we doing.
Okay. We got another caller, producer. All right, caller. Thanks for calling in. You on the BlackAnthropy show. Please tell us your name. Please tell us where you're calling from, and tell us what your question is.
My name is Al, and I'm standing in Cleveland, Ohio. And the first couple of things I'm going to say first, an outstanding show that you have. And
thank you.
I know it's impossible if Derek could just stand up and accept the standing ovation that he deserves. He mentioned several things that are important, especially to Black or brown students. You have to teach them and reach them where they are. And the most recent comment that he shared, you also have to teach people how to talk to you.
Yes.
And that's something that we need to learn in the Black community. We need to stop calling each other B word, the N word, or whatever. Because we come from a history of success.
Yes.
And there continue to take your students to every big, small, medium, unknown, or known HBCU in this country.
Yes.
Because we have to learn how to feed our own organization or institution, and bring out the best out of our kids. There is, if you can, whenever I want to run your show by any means, please tell people how they can donate to your program and or support your program with their time.
Thank
because
you, Val, for that.
The few people, the few persons in this city who are actually doing things for Black young men and women. You're the only one. And then there's others. I don't want to discount other people. But you made a sacrifice. You dedicated, committed, and you sacrificed to ensure that other people are successful. So there, I applaud you. And just like Ms. Kennedy, I'm going to share this show with everybody.
We appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank
You're welcome.
So, Derek, again, you know, it's like fulfilling that mission. I think it's so interesting, like your story from a boy was you grew up in Glendale and you want to give back. And again, those are the things that we need to be teaching our young people. Exactly what you're doing and them knowing your story. To get off track just a little bit, the lady that played, you know, the Bernie Mac show.
Yes.
You know the lady that played his wife. She
Wanda.
said Wanda. Yeah, she said she took those young kids on that show, and she said, "Let me do something for y'all." And she put together a whole video of Bernie Mac growing up as a comedian in Chicago. Like y'all see him as a millionaire. This is where he came from. And so that's why, again, I have this show and I make sure that the guests explain their background. So people don't take for granted that Derek woke up and came out of his mother's womb as a principal. It was a hard road. He made decisions and it continues to be challenging. And a very important thing I want people to do and understand, especially young people, all people, any age, do what's in your heart and your passion. And you'll be way more successful rather than trying to go on a job and trying to make a living, you know, to pay bills. Do what's in your heart. You're going to have way more success, happiness, and you're going to make that very contagious. Colin, thank you so much for calling in to the BlackAnthropy show. Please tell us your name. Please tell us where you're calling from, and please give us your question.
Yes, good afternoon. This is Roland calling from University Heights. Want to commend you. Great show, great topic, great guest, quality broadcast, very quality the tech rehearsal. I know that feeling. I used to act professionally, so the thing that I hated the most was tech rehearsal. I knew it was a necessary evil, so to speak.
Did Nina Dominguez, she cut you too? Did she cut you too, Roland?
Yeah, nonetheless, I'm like, oh, I'll just be so glad when this is over. But so I can really feel that. But what I wanted to ask you is, what with the situation, especially within our community, so many fatherless homes, how important is it for individuals like yourself and others to be there, to be those type of role models for our young men, and also too for our young girls too, because a lot of times people talk about how much a young man needs a male figure or a father figure, if you will, in his life, and that's so true to model before him what a man should be. But very, very seldom, if ever, do you hear talk about how equally that young woman or young girl needs that too. So I will hang up and listen to your answer, but thank you so much, and again, commend you for a great show today.
That's a great question, and I want to say that schools have to repair relationships with Black fathers.
Mm-hmm.
And I say that because I can't tell you how many dads come in and say, oh, I didn't know I could come in here. I didn't know this, or they had a bad experience with schools, so they don't want to deal with schools. And so part of our work is creating that space for Black dads to come in. I love when we do programming just for our fathers, and seeing we don't just get 5 guys. We getting 50, 60, 70, 80. I think our last fathers event, we had 80 dads in there. And so they want to be involved. And part of the work is creating that space for them to be involved, repairing their relationship with schools, and helping them to understand how they can be impactful in a school building. And so that is where I start. I think that more than anything, we need our dads in the lives of our young men. We need it. And so anything that we can do to provide that space, we're going to do it. Now, with my school, we have parents who send us their scholars because, unfortunately, dad passed away. Dad may have been murdered, or dad is incarcerated. And so we do have students who are dealing with that. And the best thing that my staff and I can do is be consistent. When I say consistent, I mean we at work, we talk a certain way, we do a certain thing, we mean what we say when we say something, and we do it, and so just showing them what it means to be a Black strong man, like that is important for the boys to see on a day-to-day. And so there's guys who have known me for 5 years, I've been there at the school for 5 years, and consistently they know that I'm going to do the right thing.
Mm-hmm.
And for them to see that for 5 years, that teaches them, okay, there are Black males doing positive things. I can be that Black male. Matter of fact, I know him really well.
Yes.
I dap him up every morning. If I have a problem, I can call him. I know he live around the corner. These are things that consistent. When kids see stuff repeatedly, it becomes a habit for them. So we're trying to make success a habit for them.
One thing I'll say, and again, Roland, thank you for calling in. Thank you for that question. One thing that I want to say is that's a big thing that BlackAnthropy is dedicated and devoted to. I want to have a stream of a balance, I should say, of Black women and Black men on this show. I will not have a show with just all women saying all of the things that they're doing, because our Black young men need to hear and see Black men in leadership roles, what they are doing, and understand how they got where they are at, and how they collaborate and coordinate, and how they're doing this for them. These things have to be passed down to young people. If they don't see this and hear this, then they'll just think that it's okay to abandon the community, go off and just take care of myself. having kids understand that, okay, yeah, you can do like Derek is. He's helping to build a quality, uh, lifelong educational opportunity in Glenville, but he also taught the kids how to go to Flint and help that community as well. And so these things are so important. And I want to say I have lists of numbers of exempt organizations, tax exempt organizations that I'm trying to contact to have on the show. And I want as many black men as possible, wherever you are at. Please get in contact with me at blackanthropy.com, at blackanthropy@gmail.com. Black, BLACK, Anthropy, ANTHROPY @gmail.com. BlackAnthropy, one word. We want black men to hear and see what they can become and what they should become. And, one thing that I want you to talk about, Derek, again, black young men, again, you were talking about it before Roland called in. Please talk about, again, all of these different, when you went through that master's program, when you went through your principal program, like you said, you had to learn all of these things. When you look at the website of all of these faculty and staff that you're responsible for, right? Intervention specialists, right? Invention specialists, kitchen staff, dean of engagement, physical education, media center, first to second grade math, right? Paraprofessionals, music, gifted, occupational therapy, planning center, speech, pre-K education. This is the commitment that it takes, the level of education you need, the poise and the understanding that you need to learn how to deal and interact with other people so that you can accomplish what you want to accomplish. You need talk about how you handle when you realize, wow, okay, as a leader, as a principal, I have to be able to assist the kitchen staff and these other people. Talk about how you learn how to navigate that, something that you're going to deal with on a day-to-day basis. Because again, when you're a leader, these people, like you said, the two things you learn, teach people how you want to be treated. They recognize, okay, I need to go to Derek and make sure Derek is the leader and Derek makes this decision. Talk about how you interact with them to get the best out your staff and not make them hate their job, don't want to come to work, and be a part of what you're building at Kenneth Clement.
Well, one thing for sure is I realized that my kitchen staff is just as important as my teaching staff.
Exactly.
My custodial staff is just as important with my security staff. Like everybody's important in this role. We need everybody to do their part for us to function. So understanding that and treating everybody with that same respect, I think is key first. That's actually when I first got there, the most information and the most guidance I got came from the kitchen staff, my custodial staff, and my secretary and my security. That's who got my back first.
Yep.
And that is understanding the impact of them helped me, okay, first say, okay, but then from there, I'll say, one thing I knew coming into it, I came into this role, I think I was 25. So I was the youngest person in the building.
Oh, yeah.
And so understanding that first, I said, okay, I have to be about my business. I can't come in here and talk about people.
Yep.
I can't come in here and engage in conversations that have nothing to do with the work. And so that was first. I talk to you. I'll say hi, how you doing, blah, blah. Other than that, I'm talking about this building, these kids, our mission, what we can do to be better. That's it.
Yep.
And so at first people were like, they couldn't read me. They were like, is he cool? Is he not? They couldn't read me. But that was my way of showing them who I was and what I'm about.
Yep. How to treat me.
How to treat me. And one of the, I had a colleague ask me, how do you deal with when two staff members are bickering? I said, I don't deal with it because they know not to come to me with that.
Exactly.
They know you never going to be able to come to me and talk to me badly about another colleague.
Yeah. Oh,
I don't do
number
that.
Number one on page one.
Yeah, I don't do that. That's not who I am. I don't even want you to think that you could even have that conversation with me.
Right.
Because we got work to do. Again, are we at 100%? All your kids passed the state test last year. All your kids went home, did their homework last night. If you can't tell me 100%, we don't got time to be talking about other stuff. So I was very clear on my stance and what I was doing at work. When I'm outside of work, my friends like, you are a principal?
Yes.
Right. It took them a long. When I became a teacher, they really lost it. They thought that was hilarious. Quick story.
And they don't realize how much they would probably enjoy being around those young people, like you say, how much you would learn.
And I brought a few of them into the building and they worked with them. But quick story, my principal, my former principal, was the superintendent when I was interviewing to be a teacher. And he hired me and he whispered in my ear, "This is payback." And I'm like, what you mean? After the first month, I'm like, okay, I understand. I saw myself in that classroom. My senior year of high school, I was going to teacher's nightmare. So just to tell you who I was as a student. So everybody thinks that's hilarious. But just going back to your question, I truly set boundaries with my staff, but I also make sure that I understand who you are as a person individually. I want to talk to everybody individually. I ask them a list of questions. Let them ask me a list of questions. I took notes. And I use those notes for how I led with that person. If I know so-and-so, mom recently had a stroke and she calls off 3 days in a row. You know, some supervisor's going to be like, hey, where you been, blah, blah, blah. I'm coming in. How's your mom doing?
Exactly.
Is your mom okay?
Exactly.
Are you okay? Like that. Though, you got to know who you're dealing with. Exactly. Everybody's an individual, and people will work harder for you when you treat them right and they know you care about them versus if you're trying to just meet a quota.
Right.
One of our most successful years was during COVID, the year after COVID, and that year, just a shout out to my school, they recently released that we were number 12 in the entire district out of 120 schools for progress from year-to-year growth from last year. And coming off of that, that was the year I gave my teachers so much grace and space.
Yeah, right.
And they performed.
Right.
I didn't have to breathe down their neck and see what they was doing every day. They performed. But I gave them the space to do that and the flexibility to take care of themselves, take care of their family.
Right. That's what the biggest thing people looking for on jobs is flexibility and understanding.
Yeah.
When you have that flexibility, I'm a professional. Most people that go to work, I think they want to do an excellent job and they don't want to cheat the system. You know, they don't want to be paid for work that they haven't done. Are we saying again, every single person? No. Most people, that's what they want. People are going to work harder. Yeah. They're going to work longer. They're going to be more committed. And they're going to make your job easy because you won't have to go out trying to hire a bunch of people because they're going to be recommending people and you're going to have to be saying, oh, okay. You know, it's easier for you to hire people and bring people in, expand your programs, and do all of the things that you need to do, and continue to provide visible role models that people see every single day.
Nobody wants to be stressed at work.
And you spend too many hours, too many days there.
Nobody wants to be stressed. We need to be coming to work with a clear mind, clear spirit, and so if part of the work is everybody do their job, this school gonna run well.
Exactly.
When people start slacking, that's when you got problems. But we want to make sure that everybody felt good. Cause that was my thing. Like, I wanted to make sure my staff felt good coming to work. We smiling in the morning. You know, that's a big thing. You know, you can come in, hey, how you doing? They ain't trying to talk to you versus, hey, you know, excited to be there, excited for the day. Kids see that.
Oh, yeah.
They pick up on that energy.
Yeah.
You stressing me out.
Yeah.
If I come from a stressful situation, stressful neighborhood, stressful home, and I walk in this building and this stress too, imagine how I'm going to respond. I'm going to have a traumatic response to all this trauma that's happening around me.
I tell people all the time, when I go someplace and I go to customer service, and they have a bad attitude, I say, do you know how bad your boss wish you would have called in and took off work?
Man.
Who in the world wants you to come to work? Tell the people, I got a funky attitude this morning. I woke up, I got this funky attitude. They not gonna even give you. They shouldn't even give you the chance to say, yes, you can I take off? They should just tell you, yes, stay at home.
I told my teachers my first year there, I said, if you need a day, take that day. You don't even got to tell me why you taking it. Just tell me you taking the day. I said, I'd rather you take that day than you come in here and say something you don't mean or do something you don't mean or spread that negative energy. If you need a day, take it. Don't feel bad about taking it either.
Yeah.
Take it.
Before I know you got to get back to these kids. They trying to get their McDonald's and
hey, I don't condone that.
Kicking the fit.
We can get you from later.
I definitely want you to talk about education. Where is education going for young people? One thing I've thought for the longest is I like education where we get the young people as early as possible learning the thing that they care about rather than taking some structured cookie cutter uh, educational program. What do you like your program? The banking, the graphics, the Boy Scouts. If that's what you see that those kids like, make sure they get as much of that before they get out of this academy as we can give them. Talk about where education is at, where it was, and what you're going to be doing to shape the education uh, going forward.
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, I'll say I talked a little bit about repairing relationships with fathers, but we have to do that with moms too. You know, I was looking at some Cleveland Metropolitan School District data, and our graduation rate got up to about 80%. But then I looked at, where did it come from?
Good,
80.
Yeah, right.
And so
it was just gonna be, yeah. Get it higher, yeah.
Where did it come from?
Right.
And then I looked, and it was about 50%. Our district was graduating about 50% of the kids that went through the district at one point in time. And so that made me directly understand that, okay, so there's another 50 that probably had a bad experience with school to where the point where, or something else happened where they didn't graduate high school. And so I think that's where we're coming from. We're coming from a place where we still have to teach people what school is, how to interact with teachers and staff, and all of those things. And I'll say to my parents this, I do want to say my parents who don't like the administrators, don't like the teachers, don't cuss the people out and then leave kids with them. It's crazy to me. I think that's wild. You to cuss the teacher out, then you want to leave your son with him all day. That don't sound smart. You better be nice to that teacher. But that's side note. But I think moving forward, I love one thing that our district is doing with the school choice, where you could go. You don't have to necessarily go to your neighborhood school, high school. Yeah. My school is not a neighborhood school. Our students come from all over the city, all over the east side of Cleveland, and multiple suburbs in Cleveland. So we're not a neighborhood school. So having that flexibility of a parent to say, this is the right choice for my son or daughter.
Right.
And then for the high school, we got some specific high schools. We got a aerospace high school now. We got a engineering. We got a leadership. You got these different high school choices. I think that's great, right? Because you can focus, kind of like what you said, you could pick a direction. I think school, we have to really dive. I love that we're one-to-one now. We have to really figure out how to incorporate more technology in this space and project-based learning. Most of our jobs now include working with others. So when we ask kids to sit down and do a math test by themselves, of course we're going to get some skills out of that, but there's some kids who can really shine when you put them in a group, and their role is something that they want to do within that group. And so creating more spaces like that in the educational space where there are more project-based learning, and there's more blended learning where that includes some hands-on activities, some tech-based activities, and that's what my school really focuses on. A lot of the we call them strategies for boys, but there are girls who can profit from, who could benefit from also being in a space where, there's more visual aspects to learning. There's more movement involved in the classroom. Like I'm very big on why does every classroom look the same? Why do they all have these desks with these hard chairs with this, and you got to sit there, everybody looking forward. So creating more communal spaces within the classroom. I talked about expanding school beyond the hours.
Yes.
So those summer hours, those after school hours, even some weekend hours. We could, if
Yep.
Cleveland was
Yep.
really adamant and about it, we would really, man, we would have these kids all the time.
Oh yeah.
We ain't giving you no time to go get in no trouble. You ain't got
Right.
time. You've been at school all day. My kids, when they get home, they should be ready to eat dinner, take a shower, and go to sleep.
Yep.
That's because you've been working all day. You've been involved in something all day, and so the last thing I want to say that where our city needs to go and what I hope to help with one day is, and I know I'm not. I want to first say that I love with Chi Chi, and I think it's Enlightened Solutions.
Yes.
I believe
Yes.
it's
Yes.
called,
Yes. Yes. Yes.
with the
Chi-Chi,
Commission for Black Women.
Project Noir.
Yes.
Project Noir. Yep.
So I love the idea
Yes.
of that our city is focusing on initiatives for Black women.
Yes.
Our school district needs initiatives for Black men.
Yes.
We need to figure out why have Black males been the lowest performing group in the city since data was created, and since we started collecting data, excuse me. And so I think I would love to see our mayor, our new CEO, link up with people like myself and other educators who are leading to create an initiative, a program, a project specifically for Black boys in educational spaces. I think we lose too many Black boys, and we need to figure out why that is, and not only just why that is, but how to stop it, how to guide them to a new space. The fact that my school is full of Black boys and we're performing the way that we're performing, we need to figure out how to replicate this, how to improve this, how to grow this, because it's not an accident that these Black boys are outperforming all these other schools.
Exactly.
I said we're number 12 in progress out of 120 schools. The Cleveland Transformation Alliance just released that.
Mm-hmm.
And we're in achievement, we're in the 30s. We're 30 out of 120. Mm-hmm. So when I looked at what that compared to versus East Side versus West Side as well, there's not many East Side schools doing what we're doing. So why is it that why is it that we have not come around this idea and this goal and push forward to make sure that other schools have these opportunities and can do the same thing? We need to make that an initiative now, and I hope our new CEO and our mayor understands that part of our solution to the violence, to the all the things that we're seeing in our community that's regressive, part of the solution is education. And until we truly invest in the ones who need it the most, truly invest, we're going to be in this situation. So I just encourage everyone to think outside of the box. If it's been done already and we haven't seen a solution, think of something else. Stop doing the same thing and expecting different results. So that's my last thing I want to say. We need an initiative for Black boys in educational spaces in the city.
And one thing I'll add is, I think that one thing that is making your school successful, and this is just all, anecdotal, listening to you, it's not any concrete information I have. You do a very good job of keeping them in that pipeline of learning. Yes. Like you say, with that 3 to 6 o'clock after school program, having all of these different opportunities to go on the traveling HBCU tour, you got to do all of these things. And it constantly has their mind focused on all of those things. And I've said, again, when my thinking has been for about 15 years, education needs to change to allow young people to learn, to concentrate on the thing they love and have the most, they have a passion for and interest in, having them learn about that, and then throwing in science and education and all these other things that may not be their primary interest, rather than forcing you to take 70-80% of classes that you don't have an interest in. We're going to all continue to learn and grow as we get older. So you'll always be able to go back and learn about history if history is not something that you wanted to do when you were a kid growing up and going to school. One organization in Cleveland that is doing similar to your school is the Ginn Academy. He has all of those young men. He's training them to be productive young adult men. And so, again, when we have all of these organizations around our country scattered out, don't know who each other are, don't know how they, what each one is doing, how we can share resources, come together and put these initiatives together on a mass scale. That's something that needs to be done in order to get, like you say, the young men's program, like what Chi Chi is doing with Project Noir. And so hopefully, we can get your school connected with Ken Academy and or find out the other organizations that are doing the same thing to continue to help young men have as many options as possible. Young black men have as many options, as many leaders, as many phone numbers to call for help, guidance, direction. And so, um, I thank you so much, Derek, for coming on, talking about education. This has been such a very enlightening conversation with you. I learned so much during the show, so I'm so glad that I get to do it and meet and learn way more intimately about what you do.
Thank you, thank you. Thanks for having me. I do want to say that our school's Instagram, people ask how they can support and volunteer and things like that. Our school's Instagram is Kenneth Clement BLA. So that's KENNETHCLEMENT That's our Instagram page. And we're located on 14311 Woodworth Avenue. We're on the border of Cleveland and East Cleveland. So come visit, come check us out. This Friday we have our spring concert, end of the year, and that'll be at 9:30 a.m. at the school. So come out and support us.
All right, thank you very much. And so that's a wrap for today, BlackAnthropy. Thanks to all of the callers who called in, and the link will be available on YouTube. The show will be available on YouTube as well. Thank you very much. Yeah, that was awesome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so we got to talk about getting doing the same thing.
My hair is woolly.
We'd like to thank you for tuning in to BlackAnthropy with your host, Coffee, here on a station where we don't bring no static, but we sure don't bring the noise on staticradio.net. Make sure you guys check us out on social media where we absolutely love to hear from you on Facebook.com/No Static Radio LLC, on Twitter at No Static _radio, on Instagram at The Real _No Static Radio, and on YouTube at No Static Radio. Also, if you guys would like to listen to replays of this show and others on NoStaticRadio.net, please make sure you check us out on Mixler and Mixcloud.com. Just type in No Static Radio on the toolbar for replays of this show and others. And for continuous streaming, that means no refreshing. Just sit back and relax, a little rebuffering. And you got us on TuneIn.com, LiveOnlineRadio.net, or MediaQ for continuous streaming uninterrupted of this show and all others. You can also check us out on our newest platform, Discovered TV. That's Discovered TV, not Discovery. That's the parent company. DiscoveredTV.net will be uploading shows on there for you guys to check out. And the same thing, just type in No Static Radio, all one word. And for all things No Static Radio, including up and coming events, merchandise, and look at all our great show hosts here. Please check out our website at www.nostaticradio.net, you guys. And listen, we just want to remind you about the Trauma Recovery Center. And you know, if you, a family member, or a friend, have been affected by violence, know that it can affect your life in all types of ways. It can affect the way you eat, sleep, cause you lose focus, you're angry or afraid, or you can use drugs or drinking as a way to escape. But we're here to tell you that violence doesn't have to keep hurting, and you can change your life starting now with help from the Trauma Recovery Center. Give them a call today, 216-644-5487. They will come to you wherever you are. They offer services for food, clothes, safety, emotional support, and a whole lot more. So do not let violence control you. You can break free, and TRC can help. Give them a call at 216-644-5487. They will come to you wherever you are. They are free. They are 24/7 and confidential. So look, if you want out and don't know where to start, give them a call, 216-644-5487. The Trauma Recovery Center of Northeast Ohio, also affiliated with the Center for Families and Children. And now listen, you guys, you know what it is. It's Monday and coming up at 2 p.m. Of course, we got Hustle and Wax Flow, but in the meantime, in the between time, we got music for your listening pleasure here on Your Voice of the Revolution, NoStaticRadio.net, powered by Google, partner with Colors, and sponsored by Lamont Avenue Wines and Hot Girls Gear. You guys be safe, stay tuned, and we'll be right back.